Jud and I would talk about surrealist artists and German philosophers and cosmology and physics and film theories. We talked about film, but it wasn't the only thing. It was only a part of it. I think that's one of the things I think Jud wanted to make impression upon you as a viewer. And it's not to look at film as the only way to experience life and art. That art is also collages and paintings and sculpture and music and performance art and other ways of looking at the world besides the ones that you get comfortable with. And that's what I think Jud taught.
Sit down, please, gentlemen. Ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, since this is my...
When I think of Jud, I think of two things. I think of his film and a career and the wonderful things he did there, and also of his role as an advocate for Dayton, for local artists in Dayton.
Jud was a very, very unique character, very creative. He was like the real hippie from New York City. He was the big artist that came to Dayton to work with all these young kids.
He started teaching film at Wright State in 1973, and there we learned how to use really old school technology to create images. Something like an optical printer, which was a projector and camera, aimed at each other to photograph film frames and then manipulate them, increase the contrast, or create slow motion effects or freeze frames.
By 1965, I was involved in multimedia shows with the USCO group involving film combined with slides and electronics and many other things. And it was that time that I started filming the pieces by Nam June Paik, which were television pieces that did not exist on videotape, and I would turn it into film material, and that began our collaboration. So at that point on, film and video really progressed simultaneously for me as two things, although I didn't start working in video myself until 1968 when the first video portable equipment was available.
Another thing that Jud did, I think that was important for the Dayton area, was he started a film studies program outside the university, a media studies group. And it was there that he would screen experimental films, bring in experimental filmmakers such as Richard Myers from Kent State and Janice Crystal Lipson from Antioch College, and show video and films projects that these filmmakers had made.
I always felt that working in both media was a way of, like, as I used to put it, polishing each medium by rubbing them against each other so that they polished themselves into their essential essence.
He told me that his father was a dentist, and he lived in like a row house. And one side was the house and the other side was the dentist's office. And he used to play piano, classical piano, which most people didn't know. And he would play the piano while his father was working on people in the dentist's office.
I went to New York for the first time in the mid-60s. I recall seeing what we called underground films at that time. In fact, they were experimental films by artists. Film hadn't really been recognized as a fine art medium at that point. And Jud was working in that field at that time, and he was doing things on film and with film that just weren't being done.
I like to build imagery so that there's a kind of a flow that happens. Dynamic tranquility is a term which I discovered, for example, like watching a sunset over the Pacific Ocean when I was living in Big Sur, and being aware of how calm it was, but how things were happening every second, the changes in color, in the air, and things, living things. It was something, there was an energy that was constantly dynamic and changing, and yet the whole thing was a very, very kind of peaceful and meditative thing. And so I thought of dynamic tranquility to capture that. And that's a quality that I like to bring to a number of the things that I do in my media work.
He had projected images on the parachute that was inflated with fans And I thought, well, that's weird. That's a very strange way of looking at film, but it was another way of expanding the concept of cinema beyond just the theater screen, and showing how film and video and other cinema, other visual technologies could operate with the real world.
But he continued not only to do work, but he continued to be an advocate for the arts in Dayton. And he and Peg, even after they moved to Waynesville, they would come to Dayton regularly for anything that was happening in the arts. And that was just, to me, amazing and very wonderful. It showed what an advocate he was.
To see new colors, to see new aspects of how things evolve in the world, and also relate better to the natural world in such a way that it becomes a harmonious experience rather than a disharmonious and destructive experience, which is what we are faced with in a good deal of contemporary life. So it's an enhancement of all of these positive aspects of what exists in creation. And it's a spiritual process which is becoming deeper and more important for me as my media work continues in both installation and single channel pieces.
I guess I knew him for about maybe 35 years, and didn't get to see him a lot, but whenever I did see him, it was always a nice chat for a few moments, and he was just very, very special. Super creative man, and I feel very lucky to have met him, because I think he touched a lot of people.
Jud was a wonderful person, a wonderful asset to our community, to the arts community, and he will be very much missed.
Human beings cannot live without vision. Vision transforms reality. As a teacher, I would like to open people up to the reality that surrounds them. The world is glorious, and the ability to have visions and communicate it is a divinity within man. Life is a constant process of discovery, of learning to use our perceptual apparatus. By using your perceptual apparatus, boredom is impossible. Jud Yalkut.